Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. After all the storms, the hardships, and the unspoken doubts, Tuna and Alex stand before the most beautiful turning point of their lives. But was this happiness easily won, or the result of countless sacrifices and silent waiting? Will Tuna truly open her heart to Alex after everything she has endured? Will Henry, the little boy who once only had his mother's embrace, finally find a father's love? And in the end, will their wedding day become the symbol of a new beginning, filled with light and peace? Stay with us until the end of this story to witness the answer. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that we can reach our goal of 1,000 followers. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to bring you more heartfelt stories. The morning light filtered softly through the window, bathing the small room in a quiet glow. Tuna stood before the camera, her voice gentle yet steady, as if she was speaking not just to her audience but also to herself. She greeted everyone with a warm smile, her words carrying the fragile hope of someone still learning to balance dreams with reality. She wished for peace and safety for those watching, her tone tender, as if each blessing was drawn from her own longing for stability. Gratitude lingered in her sentences. Gratitude for the encouragement she had received, for the unseen hands and kind words that had carried her this far. Behind her composure, though, there was the faint weight of weariness. "I am still young," she admitted softly, her eyes flickering downward. The confession felt less like an excuse and more like a quiet plea for understanding. With a child so small, her days had been swallowed by caretaking, leaving little room for her own rhythm. The camera caught the glimmer of a smile, yet in the pauses between her words, one could hear the unspoken ache of responsibility pressing against her chest. The room seemed hushed, as though listening. Outside, the day stretched long and unyielding, promising both labor and solitude. But in her voice there remained a thread of resilience, thin, trembling, but unbroken. She promised to try again when her child grew, to return more fully, to give more of herself. It was not the promise of certainty, but of endurance, the quiet vow of a mother who dared to keep hoping, even in the fragile silence of dawn. The morning unfolded with small, deliberate motions. Tuna moved about her modest home, gathering the baby's clothes, folding a blanket, preparing a small bottle of milk. Each gesture carried the tenderness of routine, yet beneath it was a quiet urgency. Time was slipping, and the farm awaited. Henry, still drowsy from sleep, stirred softly. His tiny breaths filled the room, a fragile reminder of why she carried so much weight alone. She paused to look at him, her expression caught between love and fatigue. To step outside was to provide, to stay home was to protect. Every day she chose both and bore the cost in silence. Carrying her child, she walked down the narrow path to Mrs. Tang's house. The older woman, seated at her door, looked up with gentle eyes. "Leave him here, child," she said warmly, stretching her arms. Tuna hesitated, pressing her lips to Henry's forehead before letting him go. The baby's small hand clutched her sleeve for a moment, then released, as if understanding too soon the world's demands. Inside Mrs. Tang's embrace, Henry cooed softly. Relief flickered across Tuna's face, though it did not erase the heaviness in her heart. She handed over the baby's things, clothes, milk, small comforts prepared with care. "Work hard," Mrs. Tang reassured her. "I'll watch over him." As Tuna stepped back onto the road, the air seemed heavier, the sun brighter, as though the world knew she was walking into its endless demands once again. Her figure grew smaller against the path, yet her resolve carried her forward, toward the fruit trees, toward survival, toward another uncertain day. Far away, in a quieter corner of the morning, Alex sat alone with his thoughts. The air around him was heavy with anticipation, though the world outside hummed with ordinary business. He turned a small velvet box in his hands, the glint of a ring catching the pale light. On the table beside it, a bouquet of fresh flowers, fragile, bright, trembling with their own fleeting life. He had rehearsed the words 100 times, whispering them into the silence of his room. Yet each time, his chest tightened, his voice caught. Love was not a contract to be signed, nor a deal to be negotiated. It was a leap into vulnerability. And Alex, accustomed to numbers, fields, and shipments, found this the most uncertain venture of all. "Today," he whispered, steadying his breath, "I will tell her." But with every thought of Tuna, there rose another. Of the child she held close, of the weight she carried alone, of the way she might hesitate. Would she see in him a partner, or just another burden to fear? The bouquet seemed suddenly too fragile, the ring too heavy. Yet still he gathered them, as if courage could be fashioned out of simple objects. He straightened his shirt, looked once more into the mirror, and saw not a businessman, but a man willing to risk rejection for the chance of love. Beyond the window, the road led toward her farm, winding through fields of fruit and memory. He stepped toward it, each footfall steady, each breath a vow, to confess, to wait, to endure whatever her answer might be. The day did not unfold as simply as Alex wished. Before he could set out, his phone rang, Miss Land's voice urgent, reminding him of the shipment. The first deal of the season, the first impression with Adam. Business could not be ignored, even when the heart was restless. He tucked the bouquet aside, closing the velvet box with a quiet sigh, and drove to the packing site. The air was thick with the scent of custard apples, freshly harvested, their pale green skin dappled with sunlight. Workers moved quickly, sorting, lining baskets with leaves so the fruit would not bruise. It was the rhythm of trade, precise and relentless. Adam arrived shortly after, his footsteps brisk, his gaze sharp. Together they walked through the rows, examining fruit, measuring sweetness, debating weight and price. Alex spoke with practiced calm, but his thoughts drifted elsewhere. To a small farmhouse, to a woman waiting without knowing she was being waited for. When Adam bit into the fruit and smiled, relief crossed Alex's face. Praise followed, sweet, even beautiful, and with it the promise of a lasting partnership. If customers approved, the price would rise. It was success, the kind that secured futures. Yet Alex felt only the ticking of time. As the deal closed, as papers were signed and schedules set, Alex's eyes lingered on the horizon. Beyond the warehouses and roads lay the farm, where silence and uncertainty waited. He shook Adam's hand, but his mind whispered another vow. This business can wait no longer. Today, she must know. And so, with the scent of fruit still clinging to him, Alex returned to the bouquet, the ring, and the trembling hope of confession. By the time Alex reached the farmhouse, dusk had begun to soften the sky. The light hung low and golden, casting long shadows across the yard. In his hands, the bouquet trembled slightly, as if reflecting the unsteady rhythm of his heart. Tuna was in the kitchen, her sleeves rolled, the scent of boiling rice mingling with the warmth of wood smoke. She turned, startled, at the sudden presence of flowers in the doorway. For a moment, silence stood between them, as if the air itself had paused to listen. "Why did you bring these?" she asked gently, her eyes searching his. Alex stepped forward, his voice low but urgent. "Because there is something I have held too long in silence. Tuna, I wish to care for you, for your child. I do not know when it began, but somewhere along the way, you became part of my heart." The words fell heavy, yet tender, carrying the weight of years unsaid. Tuna looked down, her fingers brushing the petals, her breath uneven. Gratitude and fear mingled in her gaze. "Alex," she whispered, "you are kind, too kind, but I am not worthy of you. My life is heavy, my child is small. I cannot bring trouble to your family." Her voice faltered, trembling like the thin edge of glass. Alex reached for her hand, not to press, but to steady. "Do not speak of worthiness. Speak only of truth. My mother, my family, they will understand. What I ask is simple, a chance." Tuna's lips parted as if to answer, yet only silence came. Between them, the flowers seemed to glow brighter, fragile witnesses to a love still hanging by a thread of uncertainty. The night deepened, yet the small house glowed with the faint warmth of its hearth. After Tuna's hesitant words, a stillness lingered. Neither rejection nor acceptance, only the fragile pause of a heart learning whether to open. Alex did not press further. Instead, he bent down beside Henry's cradle, watching the child stir softly in his sleep. There, in the quiet rhythm of the baby's breathing, he found his own answer, not in certainty, but in patience. He touched the small hand resting on the blanket, his voice no louder than a thought. "I will wait, for you, for her, for this family that may yet be mine." Tuna, from across the room, watched silently. His presence was not heavy nor demanding. He moved through her home with care, setting aside his bouquet, rolling his sleeves, offering to tend the fire. When water boiled, he ladled it gently into the basin so she could bathe the child. Each gesture was unspoken devotion, quiet proof that his promises were not bound to words alone. In those moments, something shifted inside her, not certainty, but recognition. The world had tested her with loneliness, and here stood a man willing to share its weight. Still, fear clung tightly. The fear of not belonging, the fear of stepping into love and losing again. Outside, the wind stirred the trees, scattering a few petals against the window. Alex glanced toward them, then back to her, his gaze steady. He did not plead, he only stayed, shaping his love in patience, waiting as though time itself could be bent by devotion. The church bells rang softly in the distance, their echoes weaving through the air like threads of promise. The day had finally arrived. After all the hesitations, the pauses, and the silence heavy with unspoken fears, Tuna stood beside Alex, dressed in simple white, her hands trembling, not with doubt, but with the overwhelming weight of joy. Henry, nestled in her arms, gazed wide-eyed at the gathered faces, unaware of the history that had brought them here. Tuna pressed her lips to his hair, tears spilling freely. For so long she had carried him through nights of loneliness, through mornings of toil. Now, in this moment, she wept not from weariness, but from a happiness so pure it broke her open. Alex reached for her free hand, sliding the ring onto her finger with a tenderness that steadied her shaking. His eyes, unwavering, spoke the vow his lips could barely hold. I will care, I will wait, I will love. From the front row, Alex's mother rose, her face radiant with pride. She approached, her voice trembling as she whispered blessings over the couple. Her hands, warm and sure, embraced both Tuna and Henry, sealing a bond not only of love but of family acceptance. In her eyes shone the quiet truth. This union was not only Alex's choice, but the family's joy. As petals fell and the crowd murmured their blessings, Tuna lifted her gaze to Alex. Between them stretched no more hesitation, no more silence, only the steady rhythm of a shared future, fragile yet fierce, like flowers blooming after a long winter. And in that embrace of vows and tears, the lesson lingered. Patience, love, and faith could turn even the heaviest burdens into a radiant new beginning.
Tử Na, một người mẹ đơn thân vừa nuôi con nhỏ vừa gồng gánh cuộc sống bằng những công việc đồng áng vất vả. Cô gửi Henry cho bà Tăng trong nôm để thu hoạch trái cây đem bán, trong khi đó Alex, một con CEO bận rộn, luôn ấm áp và bằng tình thương cảm ơn dành cho Tử Na. Anh chuẩn bị hoa nhẫn vòng tay để tỏ tình, dù trước đó vẫn luôn hòn tóc thương vụ quan trọng với Adam. Khi đến gặp Tử Na, anh bày tỏ mong muốn chăm sóc cô và Henry, dù số phận Tử Na vẫn do dự vì mặc cảm, lo sợ khác biệt gia đình. Alex chấp nhận kiên nhẫn chờ đợi. Sau ban biến cố, họ tổ chức đám cưới trong giây phút thiêng liêng. Tử Na ôm Henry khóc vì hạnh phúc,